Listen up. While 99% of crypto investors are still chasing dog coins and praying for the next 1000x moonshot, there's a massive shift happening right under their noses. And if you're holding QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, or XLM, you're positioned at the epicenter of what could be the biggest wealth transfer in financial history. We're not talking about speculation here, folks. We're talking about the foundational infrastructure that's being quietly woven into the global financial system while everyone else is distracted by meme coin madness. These 5 tokens aren't just cryptocurrencies. They're the digital rails that will carry trillions of dollars in the next decade. Major banks, tech titans, governments, and even central banks are forming strategic partnerships with these projects. They're building the backbone for cross-border payments, tokenized real-world assets, digital identity systems, and enterprise-grade blockchain solutions. You won't see them trending on TikTok or getting hyped by influencers, but in boardrooms from London to Singapore, they're already being integrated into the next generation of finance. Here's what most people don't realize. These aren't just altcoins hoping for adoption. They're infrastructure tokens that are already being chosen for it. And if you're holding them, you're not late to the party. You're early to the revolution. But only if you understand what you're actually holding before the institutional floodgates open. So buckle up, because we're about to break down why these 5 tokens are positioned to dominate the transition from speculation to real-world utility. Let's dive deep into each token, not just what they promise, but what they're already delivering and why they're essential pieces of tomorrow's financial puzzle. Quant Network isn't trying to be the next Ethereum or compete with other blockchains. It's playing an entirely different game, one that's way more valuable. QNT is building the internet of blockchains through its revolutionary Overledger network. Think of it this way. If individual blockchains are like isolated computers, QNT is the internet protocol that connects them all together. But here's the kicker. It doesn't just connect blockchains to each other. Overledger acts as a universal API that allows traditional banking systems, government databases, and enterprise software to communicate with any blockchain without changing their existing infrastructure. The real-world proof points are staggering. QNT partnered with the Bank of England and MIT on Project Rosalind, a retail CBDC sandbox that demonstrates how central bank digital currencies can integrate with existing payment rails. They're also working with the Inter-American Development Bank on tokenized bond pilots that could reshape how governments issue debt. But here's where it gets really interesting. QNT has a fixed supply of just 14.6 million tokens. And here's the genius part. Every time an enterprise wants to use Overledger's gateway services, they must lock QNT tokens in escrow. This creates structural demand that's directly tied to API usage. The more the network grows, the more QNT gets locked away. With Swift's ISO 20022 migration deadline hitting in November 2025, banks are scrambling to upgrade their messaging systems. QNT's native ISO 20022 translation module can reduce integration costs by 60% for Tier 1 banks. We're talking about a $14 trillion annual clearing network that's already connected through QNT's partnership with SIA, Europe's payment infrastructure covering 580 plus banks. This isn't just another blockchain project. It's the hidden layer that could be everywhere before most people even know it exists. XRP has been battle tested like no other token on this list, and frankly, it's the most misunderstood. Built by Ripple, XRP was laser focused on solving one massive problem: the archaic, expensive nightmare of cross-border payments. Right now, sending money from Nigeria to Germany or India to the US is like navigating a financial obstacle course. Your transaction bounces between multiple intermediary banks, taking days to settle while racking up ridiculous fees. RippleNet, powered by XRP, obliterates this inefficiency with real-time settlement in 3 to 5 seconds, at less than half a cent per transaction. But here's what changed the game completely. The July 2023 U.S. District Court ruling that declared programmatic XRP sales are not securities, followed by the November 2024 SEC settlement that closed the case with just a $50 million fine. This legal clarity didn't just end the lawsuit, it opened the floodgates for institutional adoption. The numbers are mind-blowing. Ripple's on-demand liquidity now covers 40-plus payout markets, representing roughly 90% of global foreign exchange pairs. ODL volume has exploded 20x since 2022, and we're talking about freeing up billions in nostril capital that banks previously had to lock up in foreign accounts. Three major players, BlackRock, Grayscale, and VanEck, have filed for spot XRP ETFs, with SEC decisions expected in Q4 2025. When these get approved, we're looking at a potential liquidity tsunami that could dwarf what we saw with Bitcoin ETFs. The historic price action tells the story perfectly. XRP rallied 580% from November 2024 to January 2025, and even after the broader market pullback, it's still up 340% year to date. This is what happens when infrastructure meets regulatory clarity, and we're just getting started. Most crypto investors have never heard of trade finance, and that's exactly why they're sleeping on XDC. But here's the reality check. Global trade finance is a $5 trillion market that's stuck in the Stone Age, drowning in paperwork, delays, and opacity. XDC Network is built specifically to solve this through its brilliant hybrid architecture. They've created a system where sensitive trade documents live in permissioned subnetworks for privacy, while settlement proofs are anchored to a public chain for transparency. It's the perfect balance that banks and governments actually need. The validation is incredible. XDC is the first and only blockchain admitted to the Global Trade Finance Distribution Initiative alongside financial giants like ABN, AMRO, ING, Santander Asset Management, and SMBC. We're talking about the institutional networks that move trillions of dollars in trade every year. Their flagship application, TradeFinex, tokenizes everything from invoices to bills of lading under full ISO 20022 compliance. The results? Issuance costs drop by 75% and processing times shrink from days to hours. When you consider there's a $2.5 trillion unmet demand for SME trade, finance, and digital distribution revenue is projected to hit $157 billion by 2033, XDC is positioned at the center of a massive disruption. But here's the secret weapon. XDC has a live bridge to R3 Corda, which is crucial because over 90% of syndicated trade finance pilots run on Corda. While other blockchains are fighting for attention, XDC is quietly integrating with the existing infrastructure that actually moves money. Hedera Hashgraph isn't just another blockchain. It's running on completely different technology that's faster, more secure, and ridiculously energy efficient. While other networks bundle transactions into blocks, Hashgraph uses a unique gossip about gossip consensus mechanism that delivers 0 transactions per second with 3 to 5 second finality. But the real differentiator is HBAR's governing council. This isn't some random group of crypto developers. We're talking about 39 seats filled by Fortune 500 companies and global institutions. Google, IBM, Boeing, Dell, Deutsche Bank, Standard Bank, LG, and many others. Each member runs a node and helps steer the network's direction through 3-year rotating terms. The real-world deployments are staggering. Avery Dennison's Atma.io platform has processed over 29 billion supply chain events on Hedera. DLA Piper's Toko has facilitated $200 million in tokenized real estate transactions. ServiceNow built their entire carbon credit MRV platform on Hedera, streaming over 2 billion events daily. Here's what makes HBAR perfect for enterprise adoption. Their regulated token service embeds KYC and compliance controls directly at the protocol level. This was actually used in the UK's Financial Conduct Authority Digital Security Sandbox tests in 2024, proving it can meet institutional regulatory requirements. The environmental angle is massive too. Each HBAR transaction uses just 0.00017 kilowatt-hour of energy. That's 3 million times lower than pre-merge Ethereum. With Article 9 sustainability mandates becoming standard, HBAR is positioned perfectly for ESG-conscious institutions. Stellar is on a mission to make money move like email, fast, cheap, and universal. While other projects chase institutional adoption, Stellar is focused on the 1.7 billion people who are still unbanked or underbanked globally. The MoneyGram partnership alone is revolutionary. Through MoneyGram Access, Stellar has turned 350,000 cash-in, cash-out locations across 180 plus countries into instant USDC on-ramps. People can now convert cash to digital currency and back again within minutes, not days. But Stellar's real strength is in CBDC infrastructure. The Bahamas Sand Dollar, the world's first live retail CBDC, runs on Stellar rails. Ukraine's e-Hryvnia pilot is resuming in 2025 after being paused due to the conflict. Multiple emerging market central banks are leveraging Stellar's compliance toolkit for their digital currency experiments. The humanitarian impact is profound. When Ukrainian refugees needed emergency financial assistance, UNHCR and Stellar Aid Assist delivered digital cash in under 5 minutes per wallet activation. This isn't just about technology, it's about financial inclusion at scale. Stellar's upcoming Soroban smart contracts, written in Rust, promise deterministic fees and enhanced programmability that could attract major stablecoin issuers. Franklin Templeton's Secant registered money market fund, tokenized on Stellar, has already surpassed $300 million in assets under management. Now here's where it gets really interesting. These 5 tokens aren't just good individual projects. They're complementary pieces of a much larger puzzle that's being assembled right before our eyes. The future isn't about one blockchain ruling them all. It's about thousands of specialized blockchains across different industries, countries, and use cases, all needing to communicate seamlessly. This is where our 5 tokens create an interconnected web of solutions. QNT enables communication between any network, blockchain, or traditional quote, without forcing system changes. XRP acts as the liquidity bridge for currency exchange between fiat and crypto. XDC integrates trade networks with existing ERP systems. HBAR anchors public and private ledgers for enterprise use cases. XLM connects people, payment systems, and central banks in real time. Together, they solve the interoperability puzzle that no single blockchain can handle alone. Here's something most retail investors completely miss. ISO 20022 is the new global messaging standard that all major financial institutions must adopt. Starting in 2025, every major bank, clearinghouse, and payment system will be required to use this standard. And guess what? XRP, XDC, XLM, HBAR, and QNT are all either compliant or integrated into ISO 20022 ready systems. This isn't coincidence, it's strategic positioning. These tokens weren't just built for the crypto ecosystem. They were designed to fit seamlessly into the existing financial infrastructure. While other projects are still promising future utility, these 5 are already processing real transactions for real institutions. XRP is moving actual money between actual banks. XDC is tokenizing documents in billion-dollar trade corridors. QNT is powering CBDC trials and enabling banks to interact with blockchain without abandoning their legacy systems. HBAR is being used by Fortune 500 companies for secure data logging. XLM is helping MoneyGram customers send money instantly across continents. This isn't theoretical, it's operational, and that's where sustainable value is created. And you guys, I have a special trick for you which nobody seems to be using, and I cannot wrap my head around why. Because if you sign up through my link down in the description onto the BTCC exchange, you get a 10% deposit bonus. And now stay with me here. Now here comes the important part. If you have any trading capital on any other exchange and you move it to your newly created BTCC account, you get on top of your capital, you moved another 10% extra trading capital. As an example, if you move or deposit a 100K to your account, you get 10K for free. I am not kidding. I really don't understand why nobody is doing this. To me, it really seems like people sometimes are too lazy or just don't like free money. I mean, like, I cannot make that account for you will need to that yourself. All right, let's jump back into the video. Here's what separates these tokens from the pack. They're working with regulators, not against them. While many crypto projects try to operate in regulatory gray areas, these 5 have built compliance into their DNA from day one. Ripple fought the SEC and won, establishing legal clarity. QNT's leadership comes from UK government and major financial institutions. XDC is architected specifically for regulated environments. HBAR's governing council includes some of the most trusted names in finance. Stellar has a history of working with regulators and NGOs on financial inclusion initiatives. In a world where regulatory crackdowns are inevitable, these projects are positioned to thrive, not just survive. Here's the truth that most people don't want to admit. The crypto projects that will ultimately dominate aren't the ones making the most noise on social media. They're the ones quietly securing contracts, building institutional partnerships, and integrating with existing systems. While meme coins chase headlines and influencer endorsements, these 5 tokens are pursuing a completely different strategy. They're focused on solving real problems for real institutions with real money. By the time the mainstream catches on, the infrastructure will already be built, the partnerships will be locked in, and the first mover advantages will be insurmountable. The swift ISO 20022 migration deadline in November 2025 is going to be a massive catalyst. Over 11,000 banks worldwide will need to upgrade their messaging systems, and the networks with native ISO support will have an immediate advantage. BIS Project mBridge has already processed $11 million in real value CBDC transfers between China, Thailand, UAE, and Hong Kong, with production targets set for 2026. If you're already holding QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, or XLM, congratulations. You've positioned yourself in the infrastructure layer of the next financial system. But just holding isn't enough. Here's your game plan. If you're already holding QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, or XLM, congratulations. You've positioned yourself in the infrastructure layer of the next financial system. But just holding isn't enough. Here's your game plan. Don't just know the ticker symbols, understand the missions, partnerships, and roadmaps. You should be able to explain why XDC matters to global trade or how Overledger enables banking sector integration without checking your phone. Deep knowledge creates unshakable conviction, and conviction is your edge when markets get volatile. Study the white papers, track enterprise partnerships, and follow real news from institutions, not just crypto influencers. The more you understand what you're holding, the less likely you are to panic sell before the real moves happen. Foundation tokens don't moon on hype cycles. They rally on adoption milestones. XRP traded under $0.3 for 9 months before exploding to $3.84 in just 34 days once regulatory clarity emerged. QNT idled around $40 for months before hitting $428 after major integrations went live. HBAR stayed under $0.1 for years before breaking out on enterprise adoption news. The pattern is clear. Infrastructure moves last, then moves fast. Instead of asking, why isn't this pumping? Ask, what problems is this solving and how close are we to mass adoption? Here's where most people get portfolio construction wrong. They jump from serious infrastructure projects into speculative hype coins, hoping to catch quick pumps. But if you understand that these 5 tokens are building different components of the same global financial system, your portfolio is already diversified within the most important theme in crypto. You've got interoperability, QNT, liquidity bridges, XRP, trade finance, XDC, enterprise DLT, HBAR, and financial inclusion, XLM. That's not a random collection. That's a strategic allocation aligned with institutional adoption trends. Retail hype can be loud and temporary. Institutional movement is quiet but infinitely more powerful. Train yourself to pay attention to the signals that actually matter. Central bank reports on blockchain and digital currencies, ISO 20022 adoption timelines, CBDC sandbox pilot announcements, partnership announcements from real-world companies, not just crypto startups, updates from governing councils and enterprise alliances. When the IMF publishes research mentioning interoperability, that matters. When a project joins a government pilot program, that really matters. When major banks announce blockchain integration timelines, that's where the real alpha is. Right now, crypto markets are still dominated by speculative trading behavior. But there's a fundamental shift coming, and it's not another meme season. It's a utility season where focus shifts from speculation to real-world value creation. The moment regulatory frameworks solidify and institutions begin moving significant value at scale, the market will prioritize infrastructure over entertainment, substance over hype, and utility over speculation. When that flip happens, the tokens with genuine enterprise adoption will move faster and further than anyone expects. The 5 tokens we've discussed aren't get-rich-quick schemes. They're asymmetric opportunities in a market that hasn't fully awakened to their potential yet. You're not late to this opportunity, but you're not early forever either. The window for quiet accumulation is closing. Global institutions are moving faster than ever toward digital infrastructure adoption. The $16 trillion tokenized real-world asset market, the $2.5 trillion trade finance gap, and 80-plus central bank CBDC pilots create unprecedented demand for compliant, high-throughput networks. QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, and XLM aren't just tokens. They're ownership stakes in the infrastructure that will power the next generation of finance. When the shift from speculation to integration accelerates, these assets will be positioned at the center of the largest wealth transfer in history. The institutions are already building. The partnerships are already forming. The infrastructure is already being deployed. The only question is, will you be positioned when the rest of the world finally understands what you've been holding all along? So stay sharp, stay patient, and stay convicted, because the future of finance isn't coming, it's already being built, and you're holding pieces of it. If this breakdown helped you understand why these 5 tokens are positioned to dominate the next era of finance, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the infrastructure that's quietly reshaping the world of money.